guys, today I'm going to be doing the 25 bookish facts about me. I think it was originally a tag. I'll call it a tag. I think I saw Jessie Reed's video and that looked really quite interesting to watch, and I decided I wanted to do it for myself, but I didn't get around to doing it. I haven't really done that many videos. This is my first video this week, so I'm sorry about that. I've just been a bit busy with uni work and stuff. I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. Yeah, I'm basically just going to give 25 facts about me that relate to reading as well. Me personally, and I tag anyone who wants to give this a shot. Okay. Number 1 is I work in a bookshop. I think I've mentioned that in my booktube newbie tag video. Number 2, again, as I have, I study creative writing and I write books. My special project is part of a novel. It's a fairy tale retelling. And it's so fun. It's 12,000 words. Number 3 is I typically read in the evenings and after days of writing in the library, which I do for my assignments and things. So yeah, I usually read just before bed or just whenever I feel like I've done enough writing. I usually read after that, so I'm being productive. But obviously reading always helps with my writing as well, so that works in the same kind of way. Number 4 is I enjoy contemporary and thrillers, but my favourites are definitely fantasy, YA fantasy, and I like a lot of YA contemporary as well. But those are typically my favourites. Number 5, when I read, I'm kind of oblivious to what's going to happen at the end of a book, but I kind of get my own little theories about things that could happen, and I usually end up being completely off the plot, like somewhere completely different, or kind of close but not right. It depends on the book, it depends on the author, and everything. Yeah, I'm not very good at guessing things, but sometimes I get it right, sometimes I'm spot on. Number 6, my long-time favourite author is an author called Sophie Mackenzie. She wrote Girl Missing, Blood Ties, Falling Fast. They're all different series. They're her older series, which I absolutely fell in love with when I was about 15, when I first started writing. She's just amazing. She's got all these characters that go through all these different situations, and they have to kind of get out of them and be really clever while they do that. Yeah, my favourite is Girl Missing, I think, and Blood Ties, which are kind of they're like my equal favourites. Blood Ties is kind of a cloning situation where there's these two people that don't realise that they're actually clones, and they have to kind of go through all of these sort of dangerous situations and relating to that. And it's so interesting, I love it. Girl Missing is a young girl that realises that she was actually stolen away and sold to like an adoption centre in America, and she was living in the UK originally before. So yeah, those are my all-time favourites from her, but I pretty much own all of her books, well, not all of her books, but most of her books, her older series anyway. I keep buying books from her when I find that she's got new books because I love her books so much. Yeah, they're just really well written. I like the characters, I like the settings she has. It's quite weird, when you read a lot of books from an author, you can find that you kind of realise the tropes in all of their books, which is quite interesting, which I've never really had before, because I've probably just with her the most because she's the one that I read the most books from. And she's kind of inspired my series as well, which I wrote. But yeah, she's my favourite, or one of my all-time favourites. Number 7, I recently counted my books for the first time in a couple of years. The first time I counted them was in my first year when I was actually living in student accommodation at uni. And I had about 100 and something then, 120 maybe. And I'm now in 3rd year, in my final year. I've moved from I moved to an old flat originally before. I'm now somewhere completely different. Well, very, very close, but I mean a different building and things. And I moved, and since then, somehow managing to get my bookcases, which I've bought in the second year, and because the first bit had like shelving and stuff, so I didn't need that. But in second year I had to get myself all these new bookcases. I've got 3 which I've kind of are all there, like in my room, in the corner. I keep looking over in that direction. And then there's a 4th one which hasn't been built yet. And for some reason, because I just don't have the space otherwise, I've had to kind of make a little makeshift pile of books on top of 2 of my bookcases that have stood together. And I now have 178 books, and strangely 69 of them are actually on the top part, the makeshift kind of pile. I've literally stacked them together. I've seen a lot of you guys' booktube videos where you've got massive bookcases behind, and I really want that, but I don't have that yet, so I'll probably have that at some point in the future, which you'll be able to see in future videos when I move somewhere else. Okay. Number 8, I used to make a lot of trips to the local library with my sisters when I was about 15, maybe a little bit younger. I used to read a lot of books. We used to pick up about 5 books maybe. I've never been a fast reader, but at the time I would think I was pretty fast, because we'd pick up as many of them as we can and take them back with us, and then read them for about 2 weeks as the deadline was to take them back, and then we'd all take them back, and then we kept going and getting books all the time, and we were really close. It's really nice. So yeah, I've had books there since I was little. We shared them. We'd like recommend them to each other and to our friends and stuff. Number 9, again, similarly, I didn't have that many friends during secondary school. I was the kind of Lola one that you saw in the corner. But I spent a lot of my time reading, and that kept me happy, so. Number 10, my all-time man crush from a book is Captain Thorne from the Lunar Chronicle series, which I've only very recently read, and I've got reviews of all those books on my channel now. My first kind of set of reviews I've got. There are a lot of books I'll probably talk about maybe later on in later videos if I read the sequels of them, and then I'll review the others as I go along. Number 11, I enjoy reading while travelling sometimes. I'm a sucker for reading on buses. I'm currently living in Luton. I used to live in Milton Keynes, so when I travel home to see my family, I have to get a bus that takes about 45 minutes. So I don't, I usually, sometimes it's the evening and it's late, it would be dark, so you get that kind of weird, like, shady light where you can't really see because it keeps kind of flashing, especially when you're on like a motorway or a dual carriageway, and I find it really hard to read then. But when I can actually see it, sometimes I'll end up using my phone light, but when I can actually see it, I love reading on buses, or if I'm going somewhere else on a train, which doesn't happen very often, but when I go travelling somewhere, or in the car if we go on holiday, I'll usually read then as well. Number 12, I first started writing on a website called Wattpad, which some of you may have or may have heard of. It's kind of a story sharing website where you just basically unpublished writers, a lot of young people usually, write books or like kind of novel length pieces, typically romance and fair fantasy, or they can put short stories on there as well. And one of my stories, not very well written at all, especially compared to the stuff I write now, but it has about 140,000 reads. I mean, it's been on there for a few years, so that's not really that great compared to some of the other stories I've seen. Number 13, I wrote my first novel in the second year of my A-levels. Don't know particularly why I decided to do that, but it worked out pretty well. Like, it was my very first shot at writing well, and I'd always loved writing. and obviously I'd written stuff on Wattpad that were novel length, but I didn't really consider them as novels. But that was my very first one that I actually considered, right, I'm not going to put this on Wattpad, I'm just going to write it and see what happens. I did try sending it out to publishers, but didn't really get much didn't really work out too well, but it was my first experience of writing a book, so I was pretty happy with that in the end. Okay, the second book I wrote is my first YA book, which is now a series because I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of months revising that book and sending it out and things, and that one is a lot of fun, and I got that kind of inspiration for my idea from Sophie Mackenzie, who I mentioned in one of the other parts of this video. And I've just gained a lot of experience from querying and sending things out and seeing if people like it, and haven't had that much luck yet, but you never know what could happen in the future. I'll keep trying. 15. My third novel is the first draft of one of the assessments I finished for my first year, which strangely was the only one I got an A, or any kind of A. It was an A minus, but the only kind of A that I've got throughout my whole degree, and I really liked the story of that one as well, so I just decided to continue writing that over the course of my second year and third year. In the summer I wrote it last year, that was it, and that was a lot of fun to write, and yeah, I just really enjoyed writing that one, and I finished the first draft of that one, so I haven't edited it or anything, but in the future I will. Number 16. I mostly buy paperbacks, but I really like the feel of a good hardback book, and you get a lot of really nice covers from books. That's number 17. I adore beautiful covers, especially covers that represent the characters in the books, like the Throne of Glass series. You've got pictures of Selena on there in all of the covers that I've got. I know there's probably other different kinds of covers as well, but she just looks kind of exactly how I'd imagine Selena, or maybe, it's never going to be completely perfect, but she's kind of they've represented that well, I think, for me. I really like that. Number 18, you may or may not be surprised, I've never cried at a book. I don't particularly know why. I'm not really hardened. I've been close to crying at books. I've just never really blubbered at a book. Number 19, if I love a book, I'll normally try and get all my friends to read it. This is probably a pretty common thing, but I'm on a creative writing course, so pretty much all of my friends are writers themselves and love books the way I do. So yeah, they've got their own recommendations for me as well, but I usually give out all these recommendations, especially from BookTube if they're ready. So I've seen some really good ones from there and stuff. Number 20, it's quite a funny one. I love it when a guy reads. Doesn't everybody go? Every girl on BookTube, I think, would probably feel the same way like this. It's always interesting or just people who read in general, because then you can talk to them about the books and they can talk back about their favourite characters, and win-win situation, really. 21. I often get jealous of writing. I often get jealous of the books that I read, because you just see the writing, it just seems effortless, especially in some fantasy books, and you just see chunks and chunks and chunks of description and information about the background and things like that, and it just seems so effortlessly done. Obviously, as a writer, you'd probably know that it's not effortless at all, but Yeah, I find it hard sometimes. I know everybody would, and sometimes I sit there and I'm like, I don't understand how you do this. I really don't. But I enjoy it all the same, so that's the main thing, I suppose. Number 22, one of my all-time favourite authors, apart from Sophie Mackenzie, is an author called Mallory Blackman. I think she's quite big. She was the Children's Laureate one of the years, and she's written the Noughts and Crosses series, which I absolutely loved, and I think I've read it, the whole series, about 5 times now. I don't reread books very often, but with that series I have. Just like Girl Missing and Blood Ties, I've read a couple times now. And yeah, I absolutely love the series. It's kind of got a dystopian feel to it. It's got a background of kind of on race and things like that, which is really, really interesting to read. And the characters are just really well crafted, and I just really loved it. Okay, 23. I'm a sucker for dystopian books. I love The Hunger Games, obviously, as everyone knows, the Divergent dystopian series is. Also, I think the Selection series, I think, has a kind of dystopian vibe to it. I don't know if you could call it dystopian, but I think it might be. The Giver by Lois Lowry. I think I pronounced that wrong. And the Under the Never Sky series by Veronica Rossi, they're probably my favourite dystopian series that I've read. There are probably more that I'll think of later on. I just like the worlds they create. They're quite different, especially in Under the Never Sky. They're kind of living in a dome, and then this character then ends up having to get out of that dome and go somewhere else. But I just really like all the worlds and the way they're crafted and created, and just really enjoy reading them. Okay, 24. I get really excited when new book to movie adaptations come out. I know everybody probably will. When you see a new trailer on YouTube, you're like, oh yes, okay, I have to. If you read the book and love the book, and you're gonna want to see the trailer for it. Yeah. And number 25, finally, probably just a really simple one, is reading is literally my life. That's probably the most simple one, but it's kind of true. I work in a bookshop. I'm constantly at the uni library, doing my uni work. I have friends that write and read, so books are just pretty much, and reading is just pretty much what I love to do. It's my passion. It's everything that I love in my life, apart from my family and my friends, of course. Yeah, that was it for that. And I thought I would also start doing some kind of writing vlog videos, which could be quite interesting, I think, to talk about all of the books, what I'm kind of up to with my writing, to sort of go into things. At the moment, I'm currently writing my special project. It's 12,000 words. I very recently got to 9,000 words. I started writing it last month, so I'm not usually a fast writer or a fast reader, as I've said before in my other videos. But with this, I seem to have got it out quite quickly, and I've done a lot of the editing that my tutor's given me, and I'm really happy with all the edits that I've done so far. I've still got a lot more edits to do now, but I'm just really happy with how much I've written, and I think even when I've reached the 12,000 word count for the assessment, I probably can keep writing the book, and yeah, just keep going with that and see how it gets on. As I've said, I think it's a fairy tale retelling. I'm not going to give too much information about it, but yeah, I will just give updates every now and then. I think my book that I've been sending out is kind of on a pause at the moment because of my assignments, because of my assessment. So yeah, I've just been writing pretty much every day when I'm not at work, and just trying to get as much of it out as I can, and then once it's done I can go back and edit it, and I'll have lots of time to do my kind of contextual essay that goes with it. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm pretty happy with it. But that's all for now, guys. Thank you. Bye.